Hello, Helen here. Thanks for joining me today. Today's card I'm going to start off with just a standard card base, and I'm going to also have a panel that's just about a centimetre smaller all the way around, and then I'm going to be using my favourite Altenew stamp set called Beautiful Day, a piece of vellum and some gelatos. I'm going to use the melon and the green out of the set. I haven't used these before, so it's going to be interesting to see how they work. I start off by trimming my piece of vellum down so that it's just a bit bigger than the card front panel, but smaller than my main card base, and I'm going to do some stamping with the Beautiful Day stamp set on that. I'm using the flower outline stamp and the leaves outline stamp. I'm going to use an acrylic block today, and I'm using Versamark sticky ink. I'm going to stamp the flowers in a random arrangement on the vellum, and in between each stamping I'm going to put white embossing powder on just so that I can see where it is on the vellum before I stamp the next flower. I'm going to have the flowers facing different ways so they're random, and make sure that just a couple of the flowers go off the edge of the paper. As I've said before, I have problems with especially white embossing powder, so I'm making sure that with my embossing buddy I put powder all over the vellum before I start stamping. You'll see later in the video that I still managed to get white embossing powder over places where I didn't want it, so I'm not sure what I do wrong. I thought it was because I decanted the powder into a container, but this time I've used it from a brand new jar and I still managed to get it everywhere, so I'm really not sure what I'm doing wrong. Once I've done all the stamping, put the powder on and then heated it with the heat tool, and I'm happy with the flowers, I'm going to then do some leaves, but I'm using a mask over the flowers just so that the leaves look like they're behind the flower, and I'll go around and put a couple of sets of leaves with each flower and fill in some of the gaps around the flowers. Here's where I discovered there was quite a bit of stray white powder that had been heat set, so I'm just trying to scrape a little bit off of the surface of the vellum. Here's where I discovered there was quite a bit of... Now I've finished all the stamping and embossing, I can put some colour onto the vellum flowers. I haven't used the gelatos before, so I'm not sure how they work, but I think they are quite creamy, so at first I thought I was going to be able to just use a baby white because I'd seen that on other videos, but because the vellum kind of soaks up the water, it started warping really badly. I tried it on a scrap piece, so I'm going to have to use something like a dry paper towel to rub it on. I want quite a soft look. So I'm going to use a paper towel wrapped around my finger, and I'm going to try and just dab a little bit of the gelatos off onto that and rub it onto the back of the embossed vellum. Now I just wanted to just see how it spread to start with and how I could build up the colour, and I checked on the right side just to make sure that it was enough colour. My fingernail keeps tearing through the paper towel when I'm doing some of the detail work, but I did try doing it with a brush and I just couldn't get it to spread very well at all when I had a practice before I started this card, so I'm just going to keep persevering with the paper towel. I think if I'd used a dry baby wipe, it possibly would have been less likely to tear, but I didn't have one dry, so I'm just going to persevere. They are lovely and creamy to use. They're not too soft, but they're not too hard, so they just spread really nicely. They just smooth out across the vellum quite nicely, and you don't get big blobs or anything, so they are really nice. I then started doing the same thing with the leaves using the green gelato, and that was a little bit more fiddly because the leaves are that much smaller, but I tried not to go over the lines where I could, and continued doing that until all the leaves were finished. Now I can start putting my card together. I've put some craft foam on the back of the card panel with some double-sided tape, and I'm just going to stick that down onto the card base, and then I'm going to glue the vellum onto the card panel with some wet glue. I've going to just put it in the center of the flowers where you can't really see it, and then I'm just going to put tiny little touches around the very outside perimeter of the card panel, just in places where hopefully you won't see it either, just so that it's not going to buckle or lift up before I give the person that's going to receive the card, just so that it keeps it all nice and flat. I've now just got the sentiment to do for the card. I've got the Simon Says stamp set called Sending and Wishing, and I've also got the complimentary die that goes with that, with just wishing. I've cut 3 of those out, and I'm going to stick them on top of each other just to give them a little bit of dimension. And then I'm going to stamp the sentiment that says "You the happiest birthday" onto a scrap of black card with white embossing powder. I'm going to cut that out and make little flag ends, and then stick that just under the tail of the G on the card. When I was putting the sentiment on my card, I've realised that there's a little couple of green smudges at the top in between two of the flowers. It's been done by the gelatos, and unfortunately it's underneath the vellum on the side that I coloured, so I can't really do anything about taking that off, so I'm going to have to disguise a little bit. So I went and got some Pretty Pink Posh sparkling droplets, and I'm going to put a couple of those in the spot where the green smudges were, and then put a couple more around the card just to make it look balanced, and that will hide the little smudges and nobody will ever know other than you and me. Now that's the card finished. I'm really quite pleased with it. It's quite soft in colour, and that's the look I was going for. I think I possibly could have made the sentiment a different colour, the die cut, because I think it disappears a little bit on the card. Maybe I should have done that black as well, but if I do another card I'll change that. So I hope you enjoyed that video. Thank you for joining me today. At the end of the video I'll have my last video that you can click on to watch, and another video that's similar to the one I've just done here now. If you click on the image of me, you can subscribe if you haven't already. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.